I think everybody's here, so we're going to get going. Melanie, are we ready to begin?
Yes, Madam Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you. My notes say it is 9:15 a.m., but unfortunately it is not. It's 9:50 a.m., and I'm calling this meeting to order. Melanie, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a quorum with all members present.
Okay, great. Moving on to Section 3, public comment. Melanie, do we have any public comment today?
No, Madam Chair, we do not.
All right, moving on to Section 4, B and G action items. We have 4 action items on today's agenda, and our first action item is staff's recommendation to approve payment of the annual supplemental benefit. And we have Ted.
We don't have Ted. So I am going to be Ted. So before.
Where's Ted?
That sounds like a movie. Where's Ted?
Okay.
Maybe we'll give
Ted.
Ted.
Ted will be back then. All right. He didn't ask to be excused. He will
Yes.
be back. All right.
He will be back.
Thank you.
The challenge is both item 1 or 2
he is.
Ted. I think he did that on purpose.
It is Ted Denver.
It's your turn, Ted.
Good morning, everybody.
You're
Staff recommends the board approve payment of the annual supplemental benefit and the Corbett settlement increase. You have my memo in the board packet. If you have any questions, our realized earnings are more than sufficient to cover the entire costs of running the pension system. The remainder amount is more than sufficient to pay the annual supplemental benefit. And with that, I will open the floor to any questions you have.
That's great. Thank you, Ted. Would any committee member like to speak on this matter? If not, may I have a motion and a second from the committee? Melanie, do we have a motion and a second?
We do, Madam Chair. Mr.
Okay,
Kaufman moved and Mr. Bartolotta seconded.
Please record your votes.
And the motion has passed 6-0.
Thank you, Melanie. Our second action item is staff's recommendation to approve the 2026 drop account interest crediting rate and the drop annuity factor, and to revise the board rules 610 and 640. Ted.
My second action item. Staff recommends the board approve the calendar year 2026 drop account interest crediting rate of 4.2% for the city, port, and airport members, and a drop annuity factor of 5.0% for the city and airport, and 5.3% for the port, effective January 1st, 2026, and then to revise the board rules 6.10 and 6.40 to update the drop interest crediting and annuiting rates, and to change the weighted composite measurement period to be the 12-month average ending August 31st of the current year versus September 30th. As you are well aware, the government shutdown, which began at the end of September, beginning of October, has created a situation where certain rates were not available as of September the 30th. And as of this morning, they're still not available. That was the first element to this. But when we started looking at it in detail and we're using a 12-month rolling average, we realized that this would actually benefit the members better by allowing them to plan perhaps for their retirement exit dates. And with that, I'll open the floor to any questions you have.
Would any committee member like to speak on this matter?
I have,
Go ahead.
Well, just one question. Why is there a difference between the port and with the drop annuity?
So both the city and the port, the city municipal code and the airport plan documents have that limitation of a 5% cap rate as long as the drop interest crediting rate is below that value. whereas the port plan does not have such rules and consequently is not capped at that. All of them technically are capped at the long-term rated, the discount rate of 6.5%.
Thank you.
Thank you. So are you saying that for one of the plans, the drop rate is the discount rate?
No.
Could you
That's the
say
cap.
that? Could you say that again?
Okay. This is an interesting nuance, and I will try to keep you out of the weeds. So the municipal code and the airport plan documents cap the drop annuity rate at 5.0% or the greater of 5.0%, or the drop account interest crediting rate, which we just talked about is 4.2%. If for some reason in your example or your thought process, if it jumped up, let's say the short-term rate, that short-term rate was in excess of 5%, then you could have a situation where that drop account interest crediting rate would then take precedence over that 5.0% cap for the annuity rate. All plans are capped at the 6.5% discount rate set by the board.
So all the plans. Except the port. No. He just said all the plans. So all the plans, the max we could provide is whatever our discount rate is. We can offer something less if we so choose.
So if I could jump in. So the municipal code and the airport plan document sets in a limitation factor. In 2022, the board, this board put in an additional limit factor of our actuarial valuation target rate as another cap. So what we're saying is that when we annuitize somebody's up to 20-year annuitizing their drop account, we have to look at, one, what was the 20-year bond return? So that is an inherent just calculation. And then we have to apply the municipal code for the city plan. And so they have this, it cannot be more than 5% unless the drop interest account rate is greater than 5%. Then we have to apply a third check, which is it more than the SDCERS long-term actuarial target rate, which is currently 6.5%. And so let's say the long-term 20-year rate is, we're in a period of high inflation, and it's 10%. So we have both short-term rates and long-term rates. Let's say the short-term rate is 8%, the long-term rate's 10%. And the city calculation would allow us to exceed the 5% because the short-term rate is 8%. But then we look to see our own board rule and say, well, what's the rate? It can't be 8%. It's limited to our long-term rate, which is currently 6.5%. So in periods of high inflation, which are temporary, you're not going out and providing a 20-year annuity based on a short-term market fluctuation.
Okay, I think I understand that. So let me phrase my question this way. Well, give me a second while I think about how to phrase my question this way.
Yeah, your question, Chris.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is this part of, could this discussion be part of the
Information item?
information item?
Yeah, totally, except my vote is dependent on that discussion. It's part of the problem.
Can I add something relevant?
Yeah.
So to me, there's a lot of different ways that we can set the rate. The SDCERS board really has the authority and the responsibility to set what is this discount rate. And one thing that I would say is I would stick with the current methodology that staff is proposing, and have this discussion. And if the committee, after having our information discussion, says, you know, I think there is room to change this, I would strongly recommend bringing in some expert help like the actuary to make sure we understand the impact of plan funding of changing the methodology. So this is something I wouldn't change the methodology today. I would really highly strongly recommend that the board study that methodology with outside experts if we want to go down that road. I think it's a great question to ask, but I just wouldn't do it in conjunction with setting the
With
rates for
this
this time.
vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
I need a motion and a second. Oh, and we have it. Thank you. Let's vote. Melanie, are all votes in?
All votes are in, and the motion passes 6-0.
Okay, great. All right, Johnny.
Good morning.
Our third action item is staff's and brokers' recommendation to renew the fiduciary insurance.
Thank you, Bobby. Here with me today from Orange County, Sean Kratz is a longtime executive of Alliant, SDCERS insurance broker. Sean serves as a senior managing partner and senior vice president for Alliant. He provides insurance services to counties, cities, states, and special districts across the United States, and has assisted SDCERS for several years, helping us build a strong insurance portfolio. I had read on one of his blogs that he is a Dodger fan, but despite that, I do want to say I appreciate having a winning partner with us today. Sean, will you introduce Alliant over the next 2 slides, please? And I'll drive, okay?
Sure, thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee. It's nice to see you all again. Just to kind of recap a little bit about Alliant, we are the largest public entity broker in the country, and that means, or what that means for you, is leverage. So we do insure 17 of the 37 county retirement systems in the state, along with a variety of other standalone county in-house managed plans. So we have a lot of expertise in what we place on behalf of SDCERS. Couple other items here. We are also a flat management structure, which that's also important because as equity owners in the company, it's like running your own company. So our decisions basically are based off of your best interest and not the company's interest. So I wanted to point that out as well. A couple other metrics for you to see. We do have over 300 public entity professionals across the country. So not only within California do we focus on public entities, but across the country. Here's an example of other clients that we do represent as well within the state of California, specific to retirement systems. So again, hoping to give you a little bit more depth and breadth of our experience.
Thank you, Sean. I'll take this slide. Here's a quick snapshot of SDCERS's current insurance coverage lines. When I started as general counsel, there were a lot less bullets. And I think part of that is understanding what coverage what coverage the city provides for SDCERS, what are we lacking? And so Sean and his team has really helped build what I think is a very strong portfolio to help us mitigate any losses should we incur them. I do want to point out that all those insurances you don't need to worry about. SDCERS staff will renew any insurances that we can do within our authority, and the rest of the insurances, with the exception of fiduciary insurance, will not be expiring. So today, the only thing that staff and the broker is recommending is to renew our fiduciary liability insurance. Sean?
All right, thank you, Johnny. So what we're going to go through now is just a recap of the upcoming renewal. And so to Johnny's point, we do have the fiduciary liability. We have a primary policy that offers $10 million of coverage that's currently with Euclid Hudson. What you'll see from a premium standpoint is on the renewal side, the 25-26 renewal term, you're going to see an expected number there. And we've addressed this before in the past, and the reason for that is your renewal date is actually not until December 17th. And so the insurance companies, by the time this presentation is due in the beginning of October, insurance companies are just beginning to look at the accounts that expire in December. And so what we've been able to do over the years is discuss with the insurance underwriters and negotiate not to exceed amounts that we then present to you to be able to approve upon so that we don't have to come back by the time that the renewal happens. So the premium demonstrated here, the increase that we're looking at is expected at $153,000. I can tell you in more recent conversations since the presentation, we're looking for that to come down a little bit under. So again, we feel very comfortable with this recommendation.
Quick question.
Sure.
There are 13 board members potentially here. Does that mean that each board member's, this is costing SDCERS about $11,000 per board member? Is that the right way to look at that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think what the coverage, he's the expert, what am I doing? But what we're purchasing today is really different layers of insurance, and Sean will provide information on that, but we're covering the entity foremost. And so I don't think we should just look at it as personal protection. I think we should look at it as protection for SDCERS, for SDCERS officers, and then you in your role as a board member.
So it's the board members plus officers in SDCERS itself, basically your staff.
That's correct.
Get that right?
Yeah. And actually the definition within the policy states any past, present, or future employees as well. So it's extremely broad in its depth of coverage. So Johnny's point is very valid.
What's the term of what's the liability extension once we go off the board?
Once you go off the board, so again, the past, present, and future. So if there were a claim that was not reported and then you're off the board and the claim is then reported, then that's a new incident, so there should be coverage.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also do purchase excess above the primary $10 million in limits. We do place that through Coaction Gotham. We place a $5 million excess of that $10 million primary, which gets us to a $15 million total limit. The premium that we're demonstrating here, we do not anticipate this to come up. In fact, as of this report, we do expect it now to come in around flat. So again, we're happy with the continued negotiations there. Okay, so moving along, we do also place directors and officers liability, or what's called Side A coverage. That's with RLI Insurance, and this is the top layer of your program. This is $10 million in excess of that $15 million. So again, you have a total of $35 million. The premium there also is expected to come in relatively flat since this presentation.
25 million.
25 million, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, so we did put up a similar recommendation as in years past. We do have a recommendation that the board bind the fiduciary insurance renewals not to exceed $275,000. And again, the purpose of that is to be cautious and to be inflated so that we don't have to come back to the board. We do continue to expect that to come well under that number. So again, just to review, the primary fiduciary liability at $153,000, the excess fiduciary at $45,500, the D&O liability at $47,250 for an estimated total cost of $245,750. Staff request a limit of $275,000 to account for any of those changes that we mentioned.
With that, we'll take any questions. Otherwise, we need a first and a second and a vote, please. And thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
No questions? Need a first. By Paul, seconded by.
And the motion has passed 6-0.
Thank you very much. Our fourth action item is amending various board policies and board rules. Staff's recommendation to amend the information and technology policy, the whistleblower policy, and board rules 7.50, 8.70, and 10.40. Johnny?
Thank you, Bobby. The changes The proposed changes to the IT policy and whistleblower policy are self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I did want to take a minute to talk about staff's proposed changes to 7.50, 8.70, and 10.40. Those rules help dictate how this board, this committee handles administrative hearings, things where a member is asking for a change of benefit, a disability or retirement. And as I stated earlier in the Disability Committee, which most of you were here, what we're trying to do as staff is recommend a rule that helps promote fairness in this hearing, that we don't have any surprises. So the recommendation was to restrict your decisions to the evidence presented, not to provide any new evidence. Mr. Brewster kindly worked with staff beforehand to suggest some language, and I have that on the screen if you could help me, ladies. And staff is in full support of this. The Disability Committee did look at this, since two of these rules relate to their hearings, and they're in support of this, or at least didn't speak out against it. But with that, I'll take a vote if we're ready on all the proposed changes.
Any questions?
Yeah, I had one. So just on the ones we talked about in disability, this language on the red line doesn't reflect the most updated red line?
Right.
Yes, so the material that I gave you was staff's recommendation, and then Mr. Brewster suggested alternative recommendation. So what he just showed you on the screen was our recommended changes, and then he redlined those changes.
Right, so when we move and approve, is it going to be the most updated? That's all I wanted to clarify.
Thank you for that clarification, I'm sorry. Yes, staff would like to recommend Chris Brewster's changes, so when you vote, we would vote on Mr. Brewster's changes.
And it's identical language in each of the three.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
I need a motion and a second. Moved by Paul, seconded by Paul. The Pauls. Let's vote. But yeah, Paul squared, and they're not squared.
And the motion has passed 6-0.
Thank you. Well, that's it for our action items. Moving on to the information items. Discussion regarding board officers and secretary charter and the process of election of the board president and the appointment of the vice president. This item was placed on the agenda at the request of board member Brewster to talk about the SDCERS board president's term and if we should make a change to term length. Chris, would you like to open the discussion? And you can stay in your chair.
Oh, thank you. So thank you. So our policies typically come up for review every 3 years, and this issue of the election of the board chair and vice chair was part of the policy that came up, and I took a look at it. I've been on the board for maybe 2.5 years or something like that, but prior to that, I've chaired boards for many, many years, and one of the things that I've learned from doing that is that it takes a while to be good at it, no matter what the organization is. I certainly chaired the board of directors of the United States Life Saving Association for 12 years, and it's a very interesting board with about 35 people on it running through Robert's Rules of Order, as we do here. And it took me probably 2 years just to understand Robert's Rules of Order well enough to be a good chair. Also chaired the board of directors of the International Life Saving Federation Americas region for 30 years. I just stepped down last year. My board there speaks English, Portuguese, and Spanish, making it even more challenging. and different rules because the international groups don't think much of Robert's Rules of Order, so they use a different process, and I had to learn that as well. So looking at the process that exists here, where we elect somebody and then they potentially stay for one second year, I just feel from a governance perspective that it's not ideal. That we, like the city council or other people that are elected to various offices, that we would benefit by having somebody in that place for a longer period of time so that they go beyond getting their feet wet and actually are able to lead effectively over a period of time. What I suggested in what I submitted, unfortunately, the CEO kind of sandbagged me on this, so you didn't get a copy of what I actually recommended, and so I don't know what to tell you about that, but he has perhaps different thoughts.
I reserve the right for rebuttal on that statement. Thank you very much.
Let me state the facts. I submitted a specific recommendation that was not forwarded to you, so I'm giving it to you orally. And the recommendation was that that there would be elections each year, as there are now, I believe, and anyone could put their name forward, but that the chair or the president would be able to continue in the position for up to 4 years. So instead of where it is now, and I hope I'm citing the rule correctly, where we elect somebody and then the following year they can continue for 1 more year, this would allow that to continue for up to 4 years for the same person. However, each year, if someone else wanted to step forward or there was a concern by the board that the president was not doing the job effectively, then somebody else could be put in that position. So that's the recommendation, and well, I guess I should leave it to the CEO to explain why my presentation is not before you.
Well, you opened up this can of worms, Mr. Brewster, so I'll jump right in. So the term of the board president really is up to the culture of the board, whether it is rotated monthly, all the way to, there are no term limits. I previously worked at an organization where there were no term limits. As long as the leader of the board was respected and was a good leader, they could serve as long as they wanted. And that governance structure works just fine. I think it was similar to some of Chris's own experiences. And it's just up to the culture of the board. When I look back to our organization's history, I think this rule was born at a time that was not so, I guess, collegial. And so having smaller term limits and rotating around was good for the culture of the board at that time. So it really is just up to the culture of the board. And I think staff is very supportive of however we do it. Not privy to everyone, but in compliance with the Open Meetings Act, there was a couple board members throwing ideas around, and I didn't see a lot of alignment on what path we should go forward, which is why I didn't include anything concrete on a recommendation from anybody, because from the emails I saw was, well, maybe this, maybe that. So I apologize, Mr. Brewster, if that did not meet your expectations. I tried to do it justice in my brief write-up, saying there's a variety of different paths to go down, and all of them are acceptable. I think this, to add another layer on that, this also comes at a time from not just a very broad overarching policy, but more into the immediate need. Traditionally, the culture of this board is that we have a president and a vice president, and the vice president has traditionally ascended into presidency after having, as Chris said, you have a mentoring period. You try to understand, so you've potentially got 2 years of learning and being in there, and then you serve another 2 years, and that's kind of what we used. Mr. Shearson was our vice president, And as you know, he recently resigned the board in very good standing, and we miss Cliff. But now at our Friday board meeting, the president will be recommending a new vice president who will have 2 meetings to be mentored before potentially being our president. So one idea was then to put an exception in this year to allow our current president to actually stay in office another year to help with that mentoring period. One of the reasons I did not put an action item on this, and it's an information item, is I think we have a little bit of luxury of time to have a conversation today about maybe what direction do we want to go. And staff, and working with either an ad hoc committee or select board members, or just staff putting something on the January agenda for action or not, to change the board rule. So we have the luxury of time. The president's term goes through our March meeting. So if we can take care of this in January, that's plenty of time. So, but now I thank Mr. Brewster for beginning the conversation. If we want to make change, now would be the time to start that conversation.
And just to add, I think this will be discussed a bit tomorrow as well, so that the other board members are aware of the, conversation.
Any comment? Opinions?
Yeah. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that topic up. Having served in this position earlier, I think this 2-year cycle is perfectly adequate. The board members that get considered for president and vice president generally have already served on the board for a period of time. So I think the learning curve is somewhat mitigated. What I found is most of the learning had to do with the processes associated with keeping the various board meetings on track and working through resolutions and possibly appointing ad hoc committees. But aside from that, I think the learning curve about what the issues are with the board and how you address them as a board really aren't that big of a hurdle to overcome. And I think providing people with a 2-year cycle is more than adequate. That's my personal opinion.
Any other opinions? Comments?
I like the idea of possibly having an extension with the new vice president. I'd like to hear what the president and the prospective vice president would like.
Good idea. I have a comment. I have a recollection, Paul, that Karina was our board chair and you were the vice chair. And unexpectedly, Karina resigned. And you were, so I think after one meeting, you went from vice president to president.
Yes.
And you seem to function just perfectly, in my opinion. Yes, right. Right. But this is what I have to say. This is my 9th year on the board. And in all years, the chair has been an appointed member, not an elected member. Charlie wasn't chair when I was here.
Before I got, that was 8 years ago. You're right, because right before I got here, there was an elected member, the firefighter.
The firefighter that Alan, what's his last name? Who unfortunately got voted out. Right. But coming from an appointed member's perspective, if it would be hard to recruit additional board members because of the time involved. That's why I was asking you, Chris, how much time you spend on this. But to take someone that's actually working, in a job where they're accountable either to clients, like accountants, CPAs and lawyers, bill their time. So it's a financial hit to sit on a board like this. And if the expectation was longer than 2 years, I don't think you could get people to volunteer. I mean, I've asked people, especially coming from the audit committee, if they would be interested in sitting on the board. And it is because of the financial downside that people that are, you have to have an employer, that's willing to support that volunteer service. So I would be opposed to it. The other thing is, I think there is a benefit to getting different perspectives. I mean, when I first joined the board, we had a corporate lawyer, as the chair, and his running of the meeting was substantially different than Paul's, for example, correct? And the perspective, of how the agency should run. So I appreciate the turnover every 2 years. The other point I'd like to make is I've sat on boards for decades, and on occasion you get a president that you wish would resign. So having a
Like Paul.
no, not like Paul, who we wish would have just stayed forever. So having a defined time of 2 years, I think, is a good idea. And that's all I have to say. Do you have any comments? Greg?
Other than that, I really appreciate the board having a very thoughtful conversation about this governance issue. And I really appreciate the comment of, this is a great Friday morning discussion, because it really impacts the entire board. And again, I really appreciate Chris bringing up the topic for us to think about it and talk about it. Thank you.
That's great. Well, can we move on to the next item? Any other comments? All right. Moving on to our second discussion item, deferred retirement option plan interest rate review. Greg, this item was placed on the agenda at the request of Board Member Brewster to talk about the methodology used to set the drop rate and the annuity factor rate. Chris, would you like to open the discussion?
So there's a massive amount of backup material that the CEO offered us on this issue.
You mean the sandbagging CEO?
Well, in this case, this was not an example of sandbagging. This was an example of a paper war. So here's my concern. When people enter drop, and particularly when they're on a 20-year annuitization, and we anticipate getting a return on our investments of 6.5% over that period. And in fact, if you look back at the last 20 years, it's been more like 8%. If we are holding these people's money during that period, we're essentially benefiting from their income, and that's going into the trust fund. And I don't believe that's fair or right. I think that once we set a discount rate, we're comfortable that over the long haul, we're going to be able to generate that amount of income. And I think that is the amount of income that should be passed on to the drop retirees, pure and simple. So if there are conflicts and to be honest with you, I didn't understand exactly what you and Ted were saying before. If there are conflicts in the municipal code that indicate that we're required to pay something less, that's a different story. But I'm talking about to the degree to which we have the latitude. So that's the big picture of my thought process.
Chris, I would agree with you on the substance of that, but under the circumstances where we're only 78%, we're 76 or 78% funded overall, I'm not sure I'd follow your logic on that. When we get closer to that 100%, might be a good opportunity to go relook at that, but we're essentially underfunded at this point.
Right, but if that's the case though, Paul, then what we're saying is we're going to take your drop money and we're going to invest it and we're going to get back more than 6.5% probably, but let's just say 6.5% because that's our discount rate. But we're going to give you, let's say, 4.5%. We're essentially taking money from the drop folks. And I don't really think that it issues into this question of becoming fully funded or 100% funded, because that's not the responsibility of the drop people to ensure that or to get us to 100% funding.
That may be true, but the fact that you've got 6.5% is no guarantee. We could have a situation where we're far below that in any given year or multiple years. We just don't know.
Right, but these are 20-year contracts, correct?
Or 5,
Yeah.
Or 5.
Well, we got
There's
two
5,
different
yeah,
two
there's
different issues.
5
yeah.
and 20.
Yeah. But what I'm actually talking about is the 20-year piece of the whole thing. And unless the world comes to an end, basically, if you look back at earnings over whatever the last 20, 40, whatever many years. So anyway,
I have a.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're at a good stopping point. I think it's analyzing the risk is important, and constructing a profile that's appropriate to how risk is, where it's appropriate. And I think if we do that, we're going to transfer risk to the wrong place. And you mentioned looking at, the history of returns. Financial advisors look at the history of returns, and when they have someone in a similar scenario where someone is about to retire or essentially retired and they're in drop, they would do the same thing. They would put them in an income-producing asset and try to remove risk. And I think the risk is appropriate, and I think using the 20-year for the annuity and the 5-year for those in drop who are potentially in for 5 year is an appropriate an appropriate risk-adverse asset given where they are on their retirement timeline. And we see that, we see financial advisors do the same for them too.
Yeah.
I have a comment. In finance theory, you try to match the time horizon. So for the 5-year people, you would look at what the short-term rates are, the 3 and the 5-year rates, because if they were to take it to the market, that's what they would get. And that's what this fund is getting, because the fund is a balance of all different time frames. So for the 5 years, there's short-term instruments inside the 6.5%. So really, under theory, you look at the time horizon and what those rates are, and how much risk you're willing to assume. If it's 5 years, you're probably going to go out and buy treasuries for 5 years. 20 years, you can absorb a little bit more risk. But the 6.5 is an indefinite. It's in perpetuity because there is no end date. So 20 is shorter than the rate that the 6.5 has been determined from, just in theory. So if you had a drop dead date of 20 years, you'd go out and look at a combination of rates up to 20.
Okay.
And they don't have to take the annuity,
Correct.
So while I think
they can cash
there's an
out, you're saying.
appropriate level of risk earmarked to the person in drop, as soon as they're out, there's several things they can do. They can, I think it'd be just called a direct rollover, and then they can do whatever they want with it, so they don't have to take the annuity.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And then they can move out of being tied to the short-term treasuries into something more aggressive if that fits their risk profile.
Yeah. And I agree with your point, Paul, that if a lot, and probably Bobby, that there a lot of financial advisors would advise you that if you were investing this yourself at that point in your life, you would be investing in a more conservative way, for sure. We obviously have the luxury of not having to do that because we have essentially an infinite timeline or horizon here. But the reality is still that we expect to generate 6.5% or more over that entire period, and why not allow them to benefit from that? How does it hurt us to allow them to benefit from that?
Which is exactly why, to me, the question comes down, does the committee and the board want to direct staff to put the time and energy in to study this? And if so, we would hire the actuary to come in to help us with that. Because of this potentially adverse selection where people generally make decisions to advantage themselves. So not everybody's going to go into drop all the time if we have no limits on the rates. They're going to pick rates when it's advantaged to them. So having the actuary help us look at this, I think would be appropriate. So what we're really kind of deciding today is like, we really think this is an idea worth chasing down, and staff, will you put some time and energy into it and get some expert help and bring recommendations back to the board? I think that's kind of where we are today. It's really not deciding what is that methodology. I was going to say what Paul was mentioning. I think I'd have a much better tune. I think I'd be, you saw my biases in the paper war because we had to add, this is a great question to ask, Chris. And Lou, board member Maji, had asked this question back in 2022. And so we, I thought was a time to I worked with the plan actuary and talked through issues and tried to present information to the board at that time and try to give a historical perspective of why did the board change from using the actuarial rate to these bond indices, trying to give information. And I appreciate, I would be more in to what Chris is saying is I think we should use that rate, except for what Mr. Lotz had mentioned is we don't mandate that they take an annuity from us. If our rates are so uncompetitive, they can take that distribution and go to the street and buy an annuity at a better deal. They have choice. So it really comes back down to looking at the transfer of risk, increasing the benefit security for a small group from the large group, or vice versa, as you mentioned. If we're undershooting this, then we've transferred benefit security from the little group to the big group. So it's really just looking at those issues and looking at the magnitude and the sensitivity of it and to study it. So do you want staff to study it, yes or no?
I think that's a great suggestion. Chris, are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Any other comments?
Bobby? I'm sorry. I've listened to this discussion, and it's something that I've thought about ever since I first got employed here at SDCERS. So the concept we're talking about here are two different rates, right? So we have the drop account interest crediting rate. What is that? That's the interest rate they earn on a quarterly basis while they are active in drop. Okay, so they also have a 3.05% contribution and then a matching contribution from the city of San Diego. In the drop annuity rate, that only comes into play after they have exited drop. They have actually three choices. They can annuitize their drop bucket. They can take a lump sum. They can start taking an annuity and at some point in time decide, stop, I want to take a lump sum. Or they can annuitize part of it at the beginning and take a lump sum at the beginning. They have a lot of different choices. So going back to your first point, Bobby, the short term in the 5-year window, and it's kind of interesting because I think there are actuarial information out there, not everybody stays the full 5 years in drop. It's really interesting. Couple years, maybe 2.5 years at most. And drop actually drives different behaviors from somebody who's trying to earn a pension benefit. So somebody who's earning a pension benefit, as you point out, we have a 30-year time horizon for our discount rate. So I thought this is a great discussion. I think going forward with perhaps researching it, it'd be a good thing because we have a number of new members. I mean, Chris, you weren't around in that 2022 discussion, and what came out of it, as you're well aware, is a lot of information. And I thought it was really good information because the board and SDCERS staff had struggled with this a long, long time ago, but it was something that they had discussions on. So I think it's appropriate for you guys to ask those questions now.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Ted. So I think we'll follow up, Greg, with your recommendation. Is all right
Okay.
on that?
That'll be fun.
With no other questions on that, let's move to the reports. Natasha, will you please provide your member services report?
Yes, I will. Good morning, everyone. I just want to highlight a few things from our board report. First off, I want to acknowledge the entire member services team because our entire team, from John in reception to our call center reps to our managers, took turns to participate in almost all of the city's open enrollment events over the past month, the retiree health fair, and they also attended the airport health fair as well. So it totaled about 16 events over a period of about a month. So we just want to acknowledge them because we are really trying to do more in reaching out and connecting with all of our members as much as we can. So just wanted to say good job to the team on that. We're also pleased to announce the debut of our first AI-assisted video production, SDCERS 101. I wasn't going to make you watch it here today, but I do encourage you to go to our website and check it out. And again, this is a new cost-effective way for us to do production. If you're familiar with doing production, you know how costly it can be with video production. This is something that we can do in-house. I want to acknowledge Jessica Taylor, our communications manager, for her willingness to entertain all of my crazy ideas. And this one, it came out really great. We're going to look at doing this for other topics in the future. And now she can add AI content creator to her resume. So I definitely encourage you to check it out. It's very impressive. We also had the SDCERS annual meeting on October 21st. This is also on the YouTube page if you'd like to watch that. And I believe we saw Paul and Chris at that meeting, board members, so thank you for attending. This year, we actually did something different. We coordinated with STPBA and held the annual meeting during the retiree health fair. The reason we were doing that is you may have heard that there were supposed to be charges in Balboa Park for parking, and we were trying to minimize the impact on our retirees so that we could, if they had to go to the retiree health fair, not have to come back 4 days later to our meeting. So we combined it. Those charges were delayed, I believe, until January. But we did ask everyone, we said, by show of hands, did you like coming on the same day? And overwhelmingly, I think we got feedback saying yes, it's so much easier for us. So we're going to continue working with SDPBA to help our members get to that meeting and also get to the health fair as well. Moving on to the call center, to add to the data in the report, we are continuing to have calls increase. October numbers are at a total of 1,830 incoming and outgoing calls. Our call wait time was the longest in October, but we still beat the target, the revised target, by 1 second. So we were at 1 minute and 29 seconds. So a great job to the team on that. The next few updates relate to our action plan. First, Member Services is collaborating with IT to trial a new feature through Amazon Connect called Contact Lens. This allows us to do a post-summary call transcription for the call center, utilizing artificial intelligence. So sometimes calls can take many different paths, and a member might call and ask 5 different questions about different topics. And then after the call center rep has to go in and record, based on their memory, what they covered. This provides them a summary of that call. They can edit that and then drop it into the contact ticket. So they're very excited about it. I've been trialing it, and I think it's something that we're probably going to continue as we move forward. Another one of our action plan items was to improve our password reset and portal registration process. IT is probably getting sick of meeting with us, but we met with them again to brainstorm potential solutions. Victoria, in one of our managers, spearheaded the 4 different changes detailed in the report, and we are already hearing from our members how appreciative they are of these changes. So it's to just, I'm not going to go into detail about what those are for security reasons. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on that, but it is going to help make registration a lot easier for members. And lastly, we are on track to start gathering stakeholder feedback for the upcoming website redesign, which will focus on improving the user experience for all of our members at the various stages in their retirement journey. This work is going to be influenced by our website analytics as well as survey feedback, and we're also hoping to conduct a small focus group with key stakeholders as part of the discovery process. We're currently developing the survey and deployment strategy, and we are very excited to get this process going. And I wanted just to end off with some bittersweet news. I wanted to share that the San Diego Police Department gained a valuable member of our call center team, Tomas Sanchez Suarez, who recently accepted a promotion with the police department. So we're going to miss his enthusiasm and contribution to the team, but we wish him well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Good report.
Could
Any
I?
questions?
Yeah. First of all, I went to the quarterly meeting or an annual meeting. Fantastic job by all involved. I thought it was excellent. We had 100 and something retirees there. I mean, it's amazing that they find this information interesting. I thought all they cared about was whether the checks showed up on a monthly basis, but they had questions and they were really following everything Karina was giving out and you were giving out and Greg. I mean, they were really interested, so it was a good job. So thanks for that. And then I did watch the AI creation of Jessica, and I must say I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was really impressive. It had a very human sense to it, even though that wasn't a human, I guess, I was watching. And it seemed to me that the nice thing was that you can, if something changes in there, you can edit it without any drama. So
Within seconds.
yeah. So that's good. So 2 questions or 2 concerns. One of them is on that, I'm not a big fan of AI, but on that AI issue about the call center, I would just ask that there be some real careful scrutiny of what AI says happened versus what the call center person remembers. I've seen this on our international board of directors where some folks just want to rely on what the AI says happened, and I've read through it and found, yeah, but that didn't happen. So I think it's helpful to jog memories, but I think in the end it's really critical that it's vetted to make sure that it's accurate.
Yes.
And then
Well, and just to
Oh, sorry,
answer
go
that,
ahead.
so one thing that it is doing is they have to actually manually review that, copy it, and paste it into the contact ticket. It's not an automatic interface. So they look at it, and they're actually editing it because some of it is not relevant. Might be, oh, you spent 20 years doing this.
Yeah, right.
That stuff doesn't need to go into the transcription. So they actually are reviewing before they put it into the contact ticket.
Okay, so that's great. And then last question is on the password reset thing. So the challenge that members were having was forgetting their password, and on pretty much any site, whether it's a bank or Amazon or whatever it may be, you can do a reset in some sort of process, and they weren't able to do that with our site. Has that been remedied?
So we made some interim changes towards that solution. A self-service reset is not something that we are there yet. It is part of something that we are looking at in the future with alternative validation processes. But right now, we made some minor changes to that. We found out what some of the challenges were with the reset, and we were able to fix some of those. But as far as a self-service reset option, we are not there yet.
But we're getting close.
I've
We're working on it.
I'm going to punt it
Okay.
over to my
Well,
partner in IT.
I would just, I think that's an important issue, that's all, because I think our level of service should be, you know, the standard that's out there. And I'm not quite clear why it can't be, but it would be good to get there.
And I think one of the things that we're going to talk about also is the balance tomorrow, I think in closed session, balance of security with customer service, and how do we address both of those? Because that is, I'm with you, you know, I learning a lot about, well, can't we just do this? So it's like, well, here's the security risk of that. And so we want to make sure that we are balancing that, because we have less instances of fraud because of the security, but at the same time, how do we make it easier for our members? And it is a balance, but I don't know if you want to add anything, Michelle.
I think Natasha nailed it right there. There is the ability for members to reset their passwords. So if you log on to the portal and you do not remember your password, you can reset your credentials. Where people are getting stuck is if they cannot remember their credentials and they do not remember their answer to their personal security questions. That is where members may be fumbling of how do I proceed. That is a lockout of the account, and they have to call to reset that account. And that is for security protection. There's a lot of financial institutes, credit unions, banking institutes that once your account is locked after so many attempts, you have to call them in order to identify yourself and unlock your account. And that's for the protection of the user. We will go and evaluate that and see what other agencies are doing and see what best practices are and see if we're aligned to that. What we don't want to do is somebody has email compromise or any other compromise that could allow somebody access if their account is locked. So we're evaluating that, but members do have the ability to reset their credentials now.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Natasha. And now we have Sandra.
I always get up too soon.
Benefits Administration.
Good morning. You have my Benefits Administration Division report in your materials. I noted in my report that we were working on the very last of the Unified Port District recalculations that are based on audit findings related to pensionable pay, and I'm happy to say that we have now completed that project. Staff processed 349 adjustment records for a group of 50 Port District members, and those pay periods went back as far as 2008 and as recent as 2020, when the Port corrected their reporting issues going forward. Most of those members had a net increase in their pensionable salary, and that resulted in collection of underpaid contributions and underpayment to their retirement benefits. Because many of the impacted members retired or entered DROP prior to the conversion to our current pension software system, many of the recalculations required manual processing. Never the ones to miss a training opportunity. Benefits Administration leads Chris Linnon and Christina Tamayo took advantage of the recalculation project to train Benefits Administration staff on how to process these recalculations both manually and through the system. So thank you to Chris and Christina, and apologies to staff because those were difficult recalculations. Overall, the project was completed timely, and our division is better off for having gone through the process. I also wanted to thank Sarah Levy from Member Services for her exceptional job in communicating with the impacted members. And lastly, I did want to mention that the city is currently in the midst of the annual retiree open enrollment period. With the transition to the new retiree health administrator, this was a much different open enrollment period for us. Benefit Outsourcing Solutions has been really great. We've been really impressed with them. We get great member feedback, and their open enrollment materials were beautiful. They really have done a great job. And with them stepping forward, SDCERS has been able to step back more and more. So it's definitely the win-win that we were looking for in that project. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
That was great news.
Really great.
Right.
Yes, we love them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. October was Cybersecurity Month, and as much as we like to take advantage of that month by promoting cybersecurity awareness with our staff, we try to do that year-round. It's an important topic to consistently remind staff of the importance of social engineering and the protection of our member data. What we do is we do a regular campaign on a monthly basis. We rotate this through the privacy program, cybersecurity, and IT policies so that staff is getting a consistent reminder of cybersecurity. We did send some targeted information for Cybersecurity Month to remind staff of these topics. I also wanted to highlight that part of our education program is that we do phishing campaigns on a regular basis. So we do phishing campaigns with staff, and we do phishing campaigns also with board members. Different cycles, you get different messages so that people can't compare and contrast their messages. But this is a reminder to staff that as AI gets stronger, so do the criminals out there, and that we need to be reminded that the social engineering component is getting smarter and is harder to detect. So it's important that staff stays diligent. In the month of October was the second consecutive period that we had both staff and board members not get phished. Oh, so that was a great accomplishment. A few project updates. The boardroom modernization project is to update technology within this room. This is the audio feed and the video feed. Also the streaming components. This does not include the furniture or any other components of the room, but more of the technology. We released an RFP a month ago. We had an open house a week ago, and we had a really great showing. We have our deadline for proposals next week, and we'll start that review and hope to have a vendor before the board for recommendation in January. Other strategic projects we have going on, Microsoft 365 and the domain migration to .gov has been all engulfing for our team. We have all IT staff focused on this project. There's a lot of technical components of this, of integrating with the city's SAP system, authenticating to our new cloud instance, as well as migrating all of the authentication of all of our internet devices, including desktops, laptops, and servers. It's a big project. We've had a couple of setbacks, but our team has been able to overcome a number of challenges, and we can continue to progress and working with our vendor, Agria. I want to close with some exciting news that SDCERS received the MESAC Quality IT Practices Award. MESAC is the Municipal Information System Association of California. This is comprised of 2,000 government agencies across California. So this includes cities, counties, water districts, fire protection, rodent protection, as I learned recently, across California. And it's a really great way for us to collaborate, compare practices, and be able to learn from each other. They have this honor where you can submit your application for recognition. It's benchmarked against NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, to show if you are within the line of 80+% of practices in meeting those standards. So I'm happy to say for the 8th year in a row, we were able to receive the award. We've got this framed. And I think this really speaks to the hard work and the dedication of the IT team. We have a very dedicated team that works around the clock. IT is not a 9-to-5 job. It is after hours primarily and on the weekends. And we have a team that is very committed and dedicated to the security and practices of SDCERS. So I want to thank all of them, and this is a recognition of their hard work. With that, this concludes my updates. I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's great. Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? Thank you, and congratulations to your team. It's well-deserved. Johnny.
Hi.
Compliance is highlighted on my agenda.
Yes, it's new. As part of the board's evaluation of the Chief Compliance Officer, the board asked to have a separate standalone compliance report to kind of get more in the weeds of what I do. Given that the Chief Compliance Officer is primarily responsible for preventing and detecting and reporting illegal and unethical activity, it's probably good that you don't hear from me very much. But I think it's a very fair ask to see what I'm doing. So before you is my first report that gives a much more detail than I had previously given as part of my legal report. It gives you the open and closed investigations. It gives you the activities that the compliance team is working on, as well as the education that we've received and have given. So my question is do you like it? Is there anything else you want to see? How can I help you?
I thought it was very thorough and very interesting.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. I had two questions in the report, though. On SB 852, it looks like we will probably be filing our Form 700s with somebody else
Yes.
here. So that's my first question. So what's the
Sure.
story on that?
No, it's a great question. We wanted to give you the heads up, and we'll give you a more detailed email before January, and then we'll be presenting, kind of give you some short instructions on how to do it. But just this fall, the state passed a law that it will be require this board, as well as investment professionals that work with us, as well as executive officers here, to file directly with the State Fair Political Practices Commission, the FPPC, instead of what you're used to filing with the City of San Diego. There's other changes, and so we've been working with the City Clerk's Office, the San Diego Ethics Commission, and the Fair Political Practices Commission to coordinate all that. So I apologize for not giving, I didn't want to give you piecemeal information, Chris, but I did want to give you the heads up as part of that report.
So it's just likely that that's the way it's going to be?
It will be that way
It
for
will
you.
be. It's just, okay, so we'll just be given different info on that.
Yes, you'll essentially have to create a login through the state website, and you'll do what you do for the city through the state's website.
And those, I guess, are public documents, right? People
Yes.
can research whatever you put in them?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then my other question had to do with the additional legal counsel that you contracted with. So basically, what you've advised us is that you deal with compliance issues, and in some cases, you're uncertain about what the appropriate advice would be in these circumstances, and so you are asking for a second opinion, and you have tried using fiduciary counsel, the FPPC, and the Ethics Commission, but some of the advice has contradicted other advice received. What I'm trying to understand is, so we obviously retain you as an expert on compliance issues, among other things, right?
Correct.
And so we expect you're the guy to go to and ask these questions. But the guy is sometimes not sure.
Well, sure. I think I'm human, and I don't think I know everything. And if my job is to try to give you the best advice I can, if I feel like I should ask someone else, I think that's part of my job.
Okay. And fiduciary counsel can't provide that, or is that a conflict or something?
No. I think what we've done is, like I said in my report, we have received conflicting advice from your fiduciary counsel, from the Ethics Commission. I feel like that's a problem, because we can give you advice, but we're not the ones prosecuting if you're wrong or if I'm wrong. And so I want to make sure we're getting the best advice we can. So what we've been able to do is leverage a partner in the Nossaman firm, our fiduciary counsel, who specializes in conflicts of interest, giving us hard answers to questions as opposed to broad strokes.
Okay. And what's our cost on this?
So far on that one question, I think $2,700.
Okay. So it's on an hourly basis with that, and what do you figure this is going to cost a year?
It depends on how many conflicts the board and others propose. So it's hard to say. We do have a budget for fiduciary counsel, and that's reported to you, I think, every meeting.
So this is just coming out of the fiduciary council budget, but just another person in that firm?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
So what I would say on that point is, so Johnny is the general counsel of SDCERS. And rather than hire someone who would have the knowledge base to be an in-house compliance officer to answer these questions at, let's say, $300,000 a year just for that one specialization, Johnny wears a second hat. And so I have no problem with him leveraging someone who is a partner at a big firm and probably makes over $1 million to periodically spend $600, $800 an hour for the periodic question that comes up. I think it's a more efficient use of SDCERS resources with this arrangement. So I applaud your decision to seek that expert who focuses on that single area.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's consistent with the board's governance structure as well. You give authority to staff to handle smaller cost issues and trust us and give us the discretion to do that, as opposed to having to bring little issues in front of the board every 2 months to get work done.
And does that mean then that you'll not really need to rely on the Ethics Commission, FPPC, and so forth, because this person is likely to be giving you equal or better quality information?
I think we like to reach out to as many people as we can.
Okay.
It's the FPPC, it's the San Diego Ethics Commission that can prosecute individuals or SDCERS for conflicts of interest. I think it's prudent for me in the appropriate situation to speak with them. In other situations where we're getting advice on potential situations, I think we should ask if I personally haven't experienced the issue, we should ask to double check before I give advice that could be wrong.
Thank you, and thanks for the report. It's great.
Yeah, it is great.
Thank you, everyone.
That's good. Thank you for doing that. Let's see, do we have any other questions or comments? No? Hearing none, I have a comment. Thank you, Melanie, for running our meeting today. You were perfect, and those were big shoes to fill, so thank you. Well done. Any questions from staff? Any questions from the board? Any closed session
No.
items? All right, then this meeting is adjourned, 11:07.
Thank you, Bobby.